Welcome back everyone, Lonnie Payne here with another pinball video, reminding you if you like what you see, like, subscribe, leave me a comment below, and if you're ready, let's get going.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games.
As I mentioned in my mod video, one of my pet peeves is reflections off the glass, no matter what it is. And so Jurassic Park is really bad with reflections, so I came up with a mod to turn the Backbox lights off, and I showed that in my mod video, but I didn't really explain how it worked. And based on a suggestion from a viewer, I decided to make a video that shows how you can do that, because you can do this to any Data East or System 11 game, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And if you're ready, let's get going. Okay, here are the relays that run this Backbox mod. They're two automotive relays. They are normally closed, and so that means when there's no power applied to them, they let the current flow through them uninterrupted, and when you put power to them, it opens the connection, so whatever's hooked up, there's no power going through it anymore. Now these are actually 80 amp relays. That's way overkill. They don't need to be that big, and that's why these wires are so big, and they were actually kind of hard to work with, so you can go a lot smaller than this, you know, considering the whole machine is an 8 amp machine. But when I was looking for relays, those are the ones that were available, so I bought them. But if you do a little research, you can probably figure out some smaller ones. But I wanted something that was pretty robust, and so these work great. Now, just to describe what goes on in this relay, each of them have a red and yellow wire, which is the power wires. As far as something comes in the relay and then something goes out, those are the two wires that control that as far as the lighting, per se. And then the smaller wires, you've got a white wire and a yellow wire. Those are the power coming in that actually controls the relay. So you can see I've got a plug here that kind of keeps it all nice and neat. I like to have everything looking tight. And so I got a plug, and that's a six wire plug. And so you can see that on the top plug, you have the yellow and white coming in, which the white is the ground, and you can see on the bottom side the black going in, and then the blue is the power wire. And so as the power comes up, I got it white off here, so it controls each relay. So when power comes applied, those are the two wires that close the relay, and then the lights are actually hooked up to the yellow and red, one on each line, and you can see the green and brown wires for that. You can see that the power wire is this blue wire, and I've actually got that coming off the power supply, and there's a 12 volt. I got an adapter that plugs in. You can actually just rewire your original plug and tap into that. But so here's the 12 volt wire, so that blue wire comes up, plugs in here, and then the way the actual flipper circuit works in this machine, and this is also true for System 11, you've got the CN19 plug here, which is J19 in the System 11, and the top two pins up here control the flippers, one for each flipper. And so when the flippers are active, that ground circuit closes, and that allows the flippers to operate. So what I did was I took this is the original plug right here. You can see the top two wires are orange, and so I created basically a jumper plug. And so I've got one orange that just goes through, and all these black wires are just straight through wires from this original plug. But then on this top wire, you can see that I spliced in this black wire to be the ground, and so that wire is the wire that comes straight up and plugs into this plug. So when the flippers are active, the orange wires carry the current through so it can go to the flippers, and they work like normal, but I tap off this black wire that will actually run these two relays. So that's the power system of how that works, and I'll show you how the lights are wired here in a second. Okay, this is a System 11 game, and this is actually a little bit easier to see because the board's not smacked up against this wall here, but this is that same plug as on the Data East. It's J19 in System 11. You can see the two orange wires on top. In fact, they're actually separate plugs. It actually put two plugs on here. And so if you're doing this in a System 11, you would just tap in to these two, so you could actually just make a jumper plug for this little one instead of having to do this whole entire plug like I did on the Jurassic Park. So you tap into here, have your relays, and the wiring system on the System 11 is the same exact type of system. In fact, it has the same colors. It just uses a different type of plug. So instead of using the Z connector, which we see in the Data East, it actually uses a smaller block 6-prong connector. And so you would just rewire this, just like we're going to talk about in the Data East, to build you a jumper to hook up to those relays. Okay, on a Data East, the original way this is wired is this is your GI, and so you've actually got a flasher power on this very end, and then the other two sets of wires are for the normal GI. So you have a solid green and a striped green, and a solid brown and a striped brown. And then you have the Z connector that connects it all together. And just as a note, these Z connectors and these connectors actually go bad quite often. Most Data East games I have intermittent GI problems for the Backbox, and all you have to do is replace this plug and Z connector. This seems like a pretty common problem. What you have to do is you have to interrupt this to get this mod to work. And so what I've done is I've built this little plug that goes between them. And basically what it does is you've got a straight orange wire that just goes straight through, but then in the middle, the white wire, if you can see in there, goes straight through, but then the colored wire, I actually bring one set out and it goes up to the green in this plug, if you can see it there, and then goes up through the relay and then comes back down and then comes in the other side. And then the same thing happens to the brown. So when the flippers are not active, this power comes through this green wire, goes up there because they're normally closed. Then the power just comes right back, comes through the second plug and goes into the GI, and the GI is on. But when the flippers are active, then the power goes up and doesn't get past the relay, and so there's never any power back here, so the lights turn off. And then when your ball's done or whatever, then the flippers become non-active. That cuts the relay closes, and then the power comes back through, your GI turned back on. So I'll hook this up now and show you how that looks when it's finally hooked up. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's hooked up. So like I said, this is coming from the board, comes through my little connector here, and then hooks up to the connector that goes to the Backbox. So like I said, power comes in here, travels through these wires all the way up to the relays. And remember, you got two relays because you have to have one for the green line and one for the brown line. Power comes back and goes to the Backbox. And when these relays are active and powered, they open up, cut the lights off to the Backbox. And when the relays are not active, they relax closed, allows the power to come through, lights turn back on. All right, and just to show you now, this is all hooked up. So here's the connector back for the flipper circuit and the special solenoids. And so basically all this mod consists of is two relays. You got a wiring connector, the little splice for the flipper control, powering it from your power supply. And you know, if you don't care about the exact looks, I like to have everything looking tight. You can actually hook it up to the 12 volt test thing with an alligator clip and be fine with that, and then just carry the wire over into the plug over there, and then the adapter that hooks up to the Backbox lighting. And now I'll put this thing all back together and show it in action. All right, so we're going to start a game.
Is there anybody else who thinks that we shouldn't be out here?
And you can see that since the flippers are active, there's no Backbox light on, no glare on the playfield. And as soon as the flippers are not active, it turns back on, and then the next bulb turns back off.
I think we lost him. After careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park.
Now that the game's over, back in attract mode, the back glass looks just like it normally does. And you can see that at the end of the game, it actually went through its on-off as part of its normal thing. So everything that the GI does when it turns off and stuff will work. It just cuts the whole thing off when you're actually playing, so you don't get that glare on the playfield. And you know, flashers and everything work just like they're supposed to. So I'm actually putting it on all my machines. I just cannot stand the glare. And it's pretty easy mod to do. Doesn't cost hardly anything. And I hope you like the effect. Well, that's it for this video. Hope I explained it well enough to show you how to put this mod on any Data East or System 11 game. I'm actually going to make another video in the future. I've got a couple Sega games and WPC games. I'm actually going to do this to all of my games because it works so well. And in fact, Stern has started doing it on their modern games. Now, whether they saw my Jurassic Park at TPF and got the idea, or they came up with it on their own, I don't know, but I'm going to like to think maybe they saw my game. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me some comments, like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.